Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a little bit of a long video. We're going to talk about how to take care of a horse. So we're going to talk about some feeding, watering, stall care, grooming, exercising, and riding. So first we'll go over feeding. So always clean their buckets, don't leave them dirty. Sometimes if you leave the buckets out, or if whoever fed them leaves the buckets out, the horses will actually play with them because they're bored in their stalls, and they tend to get feces in them and sometimes urine. So just to prevent any type of possibility of them getting sick from their own secretions, just clean their buckets the same way that you wouldn't eat off of a dirty plate and you would not eat with a dirty fork or spoon. So just do them that favor, and it helps you with one less thing to worry about. Now, of course, when it comes to actually feeding, make sure that you are giving all of the proper ingredients, and also make sure that you're leaving every component in. So just make sure that you do your research. Also check out my other video, nutritional requirements for horses. It goes into better detail and it explains it a lot better. This is more or less just for the purpose of basic things that you need to do in order to care for a horse. Sat for a while longer, so now it's not nearly as wet, so it's ready to be given to them. Alright, and of course, with the feeding, you always give hay if they're not able to graze. My boys get 1 flake each, and of course they get their grain at night too, and they also get a flake in the morning, and along with their grain and their pellets. Here's Bones, and there Sis. I better go grab him. He's like patiently waiting out there. So you don't see him. Alright, well, let's go see if he's out here. I think he is. He may just be out of my sight. There he is. There he is, waiting patiently. Second, we have watering. Always clean their buckets and always make sure that they have more than enough water available at all times. Always make sure that it's clean water too, because horses can be very picky when it comes to their water. Hi guys, so I'm just going to show you what it's like to clean as a part of my how to take care of your horse. So this process does take me quite a bit of time. I think it takes me at least 15 minutes to clean each stall. So I always sweep off the pad first, and I just get rid of any extra hay, any feces, and I try to scrape off any urine that could be on the pad. Sometimes if I'm able to, I will pull out the pads. They're actually really heavy, so I have to have my husband help me, and he'll help me pull them out, and we will rinse them off and give them a good scrubbing. Next, I clean out the rest of the stall, which is like the half pasture part, which I've talked about in a previous video. I scoop out all the feces and the leftover hay. I also will actually dig out a lot of the urine spots and anything that's got mud. Right where Amaziah is standing right now, he's actually about ankle deep in just soft ground where he's been urinating. He urinates a lot, and he urinates in one general location, so that's why that spot is so deep and full of mud, which is fine. I mean, we've been able to maintain it pretty well, but another reason his stall looks so bad is because it's actually been pretty nasty. We've had a lot of rain, and we had snow for 2 days in a row, and it just pretty much ruined their stalls. So I've been trying to correct it and get all that stuff out of there so that they can stand on dry ground. The importance of them having dry ground is just for the simple fact that all horses can be prone to thrush. naturally all horses have it, and it can actually just it can be so bad that it can cause their hoof to slough off and it can eat away their frog. It's really something that you need to be able to maintain. And I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it is something that needs to be taken seriously. Some people tend to care less about it, and I think that it's, no big deal, but thrush is a fungus and a bacteria, and it can, just like anything else, it'll adapt to the medication you use, and also if you are not good at cleaning out your horse's hooves, it will pretty much thrive, and it will become a very big problem, and it can make your horse lame. It can, like I said, lead to the hoof sloughing off. So to prevent it, I shovel out all of the wet and moist dirt that is in their stalls, and I try to get rid of their urine spots so that it stays dry. Now I do this on a daily basis. Some places only require that you clean their stalls twice a week, but I highly recommend once a day at a minimum. If you can, maybe twice a day. When I used to do it for twice a day, my boys didn't even have the slightest sign of thrush, but since I've only been able to clean their stalls once a day, they have a minor amount which is maintainable, but there are times when I've seen it get pretty bad, and it's actually eaten away some of Amaziah's sole in his hoof. So it's not just around his frog, it's also all around the shoes and also in the sole as well. So this is what your stall needs to look like. It needs to be clean, no feces, no urine, just nothing at all, just keeping it clean. It needs to be like this at least every day, probably in the evening. And it's really not that hard and doesn't take that long. Next, you want to groom your horse. You want to have a curry comb, a wire or a soft brush, hoof pick, and a hairbrush or a comb of some sort. So technically you don't have to brush your horse daily, but I think it's a great idea just for the simple fact that by doing this you are bonding with them, and on top of that you can notice any new cuts or any scrapes, anything like that at all, and you can tell if your horse has any new lumps. It's really just the best way to keep up with your horse's health, and also it's just a nice time to spend with them too. And it's kind of important. I feel like it needs to be done every day, especially if you plan on riding, and especially if you plan on working them. At least let them be clean, Now when I was cleaning his hooves, I noticed that, so thrush has a smell, so I noticed the smell. It's kind of like I don't even know how to explain it, but either way, I noticed the smell, so I cleaned out his hooves as best I could, and I also applied Thrush Buster. So this is something that you apply once a week for treatment and once every 2 weeks as a preventative. So I went ahead and I applied it. I applied it last week, but also last week that was when it was really rainy and it snowed and it was really bad. So I just went ahead and reapplied it. Hopefully it'll help keep it down. The only reason I think it came back as bad as it did is because of how full of urine his stall was today. Now with exercising, if you don't plan on riding that day, you can always do groundwork or lunge lining. You don't have to, of course, put tack on them. I generally like to, just to kind of make Bowen put his thinking cap on, because without the saddle sometimes he just really doesn't care and he's just wandering around looking at everything else outside of the round pen. But it's very important for you to exercise your horse and to take them out exploring and just spending time with them and bonding, other than only riding and only being there to work. Just for the fact that it's enjoyable for them when you don't always ride, and on top of that, you don't want to make them extremely sore either, especially if you're not doing the proper cool downs and warm-ups before and after riding. I always highly recommend warming up your horse before you ever hop on, and I also recommend doing a nice cool down. So this This video is just of us wandering around the property, just having a good time. Just remember that when you're riding, it's not always about learning something new and, you know, doing anything like extreme work. Just try to keep it fun every now and then and do something different. If you do the same thing all the time, your horse will get bored and then they'll just become unwilling to do anything. That's how you take care of a horse and how you keep them happy and healthy. You'll have a great day.